Welcome to the Exponential Potential Podcast. Ignite your potential and thrive in times of great change with your hosts, Jennifer Evans and Claire Oatway. Join us and feel uplifted and inspired as we share with you powerful and insightful stories, top tips and tools with our expert guests on an array of topics covering all aspects of life and business, designed to ignite your potential and help you thrive in times of great change.
Hey, welcome to Exponential Potential. And this is a very special Twixmas edition. And as you can see, there are a lot of faces around the room. Jen, what are we doing today?
Good question. So we've invited these wonderful guests on, and we're going to be sharing. We're talking about New Year's resolution. We're talking about 2023 and how to elevate your 2023. We're going to go through some ideas and some suggestions. We all know New Year's resolutions don't work unless there's a particular, unless you've got that real support, encouragement, and accountability. So we're going to talk a bit about how you can not just have a few resolutions for the beginning of the year, but how to continue 2023 feeling inspired through the whole year. We're going to talk a little bit about reflecting on 2022, what worked, what didn't work, and how you want to be in 2023. So, and then we'll bring in these wonderful guests to share some insight, and some of them have got some really amazing free gifts as well. So you want to continue listening to the whole show, and I'm guessing this is going to be one of those shows that you're going to want to listen to over and over again, because I think there's going to be some real juicy gems and insights in this.
Hell yeah. And kind of this time of year I love for many, many, many reasons. One of the reasons, and this might seem crazy, it may not, but I'm very attuned to the calendar and the shift in seasons. And I get so excited around the winter solstice time, which is around the 21st of December, because every single day from then onwards, it gets lighter and brighter, and we're heading back towards the summer. So much as I love the festivities, I love that warmth, I just get excited because this time of year, we've kind of been to the darkest depths in the Northern Hemisphere, at least, and it's just getting brighter. We're heading towards spring, and then summer, which is my favorite time of year. Not wishing my life away, but it really is. And do you think, Jen, that's why a lot of people are kind of in this in-between stage, kind of just building up to the new year ahead?
Yes, and I think, winter season, if we look at nature, is a time for hibernation. It's a time to go within and to really reflect and give yourself space and peace and quiet, because yes, the holiday seasons can be really hectic. There's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of expectation, and the in between the holidays and the new year is that time where you just can just take a nice big breather and allow yourself some space and time to reflect. Anybody want to add to that?
I was going to say, Jen, that it does depend on the client, but with us living in the northern hemisphere, it might be a controversial thing to say, but I will actually really dig deep with my clients to make sure that New Year is the right time to make a change, because January for some people can be pretty depressing. It is still dark and cold, and if that environment is not right for them to change, then I will often suggest, why don't you wait until March? The pressure's off a bit then. So it might be controversial, but if someone does want to change in January, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, that's a valid point. The other thing with the new year, is there's a lot of energy behind New Year. So for those that want to pick up on that energy and pick up on that momentum of change, there's sort of a new year, new start, new you, new me. There's that energy which people can ride that wave if they want to. But you're absolutely right. If there's pressure to change, it's the new year, I have to be different, and then that builds resistance, then obviously then you're not in the right place to make some of those changes. And spring is a very powerful time to change as well, because everything's fresh and new and new growth and all the rest of it. So yeah, thank you. Very valid point.
What you've struck me with there is one of our domestic routines. I don't think I've shared this one with you guys. You pledge to eat less meat, or to give up alcohol, or to give up sugar. Now, doing that in January it just feels doom laden, really. But February, there's only 28 days in February. If you give up something in February, we gave up meat completely, and by day 7 we decided that we couldn't spend our time just eating corn or cheese, that we had to get a bit more creative. But again, only 28 days. I have tried to give up sugar, and I have tried to give up chocolate, but for the sake of humanity, I have had to stop. Realize, because I'm a very human being, realize that I'm a nicer person with a bar of chocolate to hand. And one day.
Candy, I want to ask you. So we haven't introduced the panel to anybody yet, and we will do as we go through. But Candy, if I can just come to you. So we have people in North America, Slovakia, UK, Italy, and Candy, as you can tell, she's in a sleeveless top. She's our southern belle. Do you find and you've lived in the Northern Hemisphere as well, haven't you? So do you find there's quite a difference between living in a hotter part than there is so there's still the same seasonal?
Yeah, and I would say I echo a lot of what John says. Even me personally, I don't start my new year till February 1 for a couple of reasons. The holidays for a lot of people, and I know this for myself, can be very frenetic energy, can be very traumatic, can be very a lot of pressure, a lot of shooting, and we do a lot of this amplified energy that gets us feeling our adrenals are burnt out, we're tapped out. And so to put additional pressure to say, I got to hit the ground running, I got to start, will take people out of the game. It is one of the reasons why resolutions don't work. It's this expectation that there's an automatic reset. And I know the last couple years, especially being here, I'm in Texas and I used to live in Wisconsin. There isn't a difference. We just have a rare period right now. We still get our seasons here as well. But I find that when people come into January with extra pressure and expectation, it ends up derailing a lot of times their first quarter and sometimes the first half of their year. To give people that space and grace to say, why don't you let yourself decompress from all that built up from Thanksgiving through the new year, and let yourself I don't even start any of my new offers, my programs, anything until February, because it's just a lot of frenetic noise going on that I think we need to give ourselves that space to bring it down a notch before we kick our ass all over again and put all this unnecessary burden and stress just because that's what we've always done.
Yeah, good point. And I just introduced Candy because we haven't done any introductions yet. Candy is an absolute powerhouse. She is so passionate and committed about helping others. And some of you know Candy, she totally comes from her heart all the time. She comes from love, with love, and she's all about conscious leadership and leading with love from love, heart-centered, and she helps develop. She's a leadership development expert, so she really looks at leaders in the corporate world, and we're all leaders at the end of the day. It's, as Candy says, it's our responsibility to be a leader. So she's incredibly passionate about putting her message across. Is there anything you want to add to that, Candy?
I think that sums it up pretty well.
She's Gorgeous. Yeah, we're so blessed to have all of these wonderful people in our worlds. And this is the point where we advertise all of the previous Exponential Potential episodes that these guys are in. And with Dan and Laurie, we're still to release theirs. So yeah, we'll build up to you guys.
Just Claire, did you want to introduce John? Well, another introduction. Yeah.
So John and I don't know how long we've known each other, but we've known each other for quite some time, and quite deeply, quite quickly. John, Ken and I actually in a group. And John is a mental resilience coach who works with executives and senior leaders, taking a lot of his corporate background through to reduce down overwhelm. And what you'll pick up from John's body language if you're watching, or from John's tone, is just the calm and positive energy that he brings. He's relentlessly supportive, and kind of what I love, John, about your statement around, if it's not right, it's not right. And there's this calm, positive, I want to move you in the right direction, but actually I want you to be the very best that you can. And that means taking it easy, taking it slow, giving yourself permission to put that to one side. But there's a real depth, there's a real kind of love that comes behind that. It's anyway, so I adore John's calm energy, and it comes through beautifully in our interview and in many, every single conversation I have with John. But John's, he's very special, and John's offered a free gift to all of our listeners, which is an opportunity to have one of those conversations, and you will be deeply moved during the event and after. I promise that. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Sorry. Keep us going.
So we were talking, just to touch on New Year's resolutions in a bit more detail. And as John and Candy both said, that the pressure that we can put ourselves on in January to make those changes is one of the reasons that they don't work. And then there's that feeling like you failed, which is never a very nice feeling, even though failure is another example of doing it differently, finding a way that works for you. So when we're ready to make those New Year's resolutions, or 2023, to elevate and inspire your 2023, I think we really need to go deep and take the time to see what really matters to you as individuals, or if you're as a business, and look at what you're truly passionate about. What is it that lights you up? What is it that has you leaning forward? That's your inspiration when somebody's and a lot of us don't know, it's a real shame. A lot of us lose our identities around what makes us happy because we're so busy helping others or making others happy, or thinking we're making others happy. We forget what really matters to us, and we forget what brings us joy, and we get so wrapped up in the pressure and the working hard and the pushing, we lose ourselves in that. So I think to take that time to reflect and dig deep and look at what really matters to you, what are you passionate about, what lights you up, and you'll notice your body leaning forward when there's a subject that's interesting. So I think that's one key to helping you finding your purpose and your passion, to really tune in and connect with what lifts you. Laurie, were you going to say something then?
Yes. I mean, you're talking to, just what I love is, really finding your passion and sinking into your passion. And what actually I love about this time of year in the winter, and in North America, is, the winter is here, and there is a time of slowing down. not jumping into that busyness of what we put on ourselves in January. And so, like, I think of fires, and where Claire is in this beautiful background in front of our fireplace, and climbing under the covers, and giving yourself space to just get into the yummy deliciousness of whatever that is. You might not know your passion, but it is. For me, it's that, as you can tell from what's behind me, it's, I love doing art, but it's that what are the times in your life in which you lose time, in which you're totally able to sink into the something, and this is that time to do that. And when we're able to do that, when we give ourselves that really yummy, meaningful space that I think winter is perfect for in North America, that you are so much able to listen to your heart, to listen to what's going on inside. And so that's honestly what I love about this time of year, is not that rush, what am I going to add on? What am I going to change? But what am I going to sink into? What do I love?
Yeah, that's lovely. It's beautiful, Laurie. Gorgeous. And I'll let go on. Sorry, Claire.
I was going to say, and it's almost an automatic segue through to Dan, because Dan is our next episode at the beginning of January. And Dan Underwood is a career coach and has kind of been developing a series around being you and understanding what brings you joy. So Dan, kind of what can we bring through around this yummy time around understanding what drives us or what we're passionate about?
Probably the first thing to do is stop. I think a lot of people either focus on the doing and then not doing, and there's a space in the middle. I've just wrote down here, I was just listening into the guys around, and you pick up an inner voice inside yourself. And the first thing I think a lot of people need to really do, especially in this position between where the world is changing, where it's going, is to just listen to yourself. I've just wrote down something that maybe people forget, which is give yourself a present by being present. And I think that's the key with a lot of people. It's not about always what life happens around you, it's how you happen to life sometimes. I think I saw, maybe it was subconscious, I think someone's got a message in their picture in the background about happening. I can't remember who it is, but that triggered me, which is basically just be calm. Sometimes the thing is not to do something, and just to observe and be around people and energy. And that's where probably all you need to be now. And then figure out from that space what you need to do next. And just listen to yourself, because that's, at the end of the day, the voice you need to listen to the most. The world's going to be shouting at you and full of noise, but how you choose to interpret that, that's where your real being really comes from.
And I want to thank you, Dan, and we're going to learn more about what you do in the new year. But for me, I wonder if I can share a story about how sometimes finding out those talents can be really quite unexpected. What a lot of people don't know about me is that I've actually competed on behalf of Team GB twice, well, 3 times, but twice in the World Indoor Rowing Championships over in Boston, and top 20 heavyweight women in the world, and a record holder. And I didn't know that I could do it. I joined we moved around the country, moved back down to Cornwall, and I joined a rowing team, a local rowing team, rowing these big wooden boats. So I was in the middle as the engine room. We drank more than we actually sailed, but there we go. But over the winter, we wanted to train together. So we went to a local gym to practice together. And on the erg machines that are there, I had a go, just like, yeah, here we go. And the woman at the gym who did our induction, she said, "You're really good. You should compete." And like many people, you go, no, all right, let's have a look. And I did. I took her advice and went to Portsmouth for my first race, the south of England, and I won. And then I went to Manchester for the north of England, and I won. and I went to the Welsh and I won the Welsh, and I just kept winning and winning and winning, taking part in national championships and coming in the top 5. And then, I found myself doing radio interviews on Radio Cornwall and doing a raffle prize, as you do in Mevagizzy, to raise the funds to go and compete for a 7-minute race. And boy, it was hard. It was hard physically, so much so I'd kind of nearly collapse at the end of it and fall asleep. And the training was tough because I learned that your mind gives way earlier than your body. You have to keep pushing through it. But I didn't have a clue at all that there was this little talent that had been buried deep inside me. Not until somebody else had said, "Oh, you should do that." And so there's something quite delicious about being open enough to just explore and play with concepts as they come and not force them. I never intended to go to Paris to compete, or to Boston, or it just happened on my path.
And one of the reasons that you stuck with it and it happened for you and you won those competitions was, what do you think, is there a couple of 2 or 3 things that really kept you going?
So the curiosity was one of the first ones, and so it tickled me. It just like it's, well, where does this go next? And actually, I've treated some of my career highs in the same way. I've been surprised. There's been a downside to that, but I've been so surprised at the success that I've not been attached to it, if that makes sense. Like, okay, where's this come from? Oh, where did it go? Let's see. So the curiosity has definitely been one of the strong points. I think the commitment and determination and the impact that you can have with very small steps. So one of the most dull parts of the training was an hour on a rowing machine. Seriously, an hour going very, very slow back and forth. But what you learn to do is you learn to focus on different parts of your body. So it might be my lower leg, it might be my thighs, it might be my arms, it might be my shoulders, but you just work through and you just build up that resilience and that strength, and your muscles remember these things. And then the final part was really conquering my mind, to overcome the boredom, to overcome the frustration. At times, I've actually vomited in the middle of a race and swallowed it and then carried on going. Again, it's like I can be here, I can be humiliated, I can give into this, or I can finish the race. I'm gonna finish the race. It just overcomes you. It's just incredible. I wouldn't encourage that to anybody. It's not a nice experience.
But was there, for you to continue, was there a lot of joy through your journey, as well as the boredom and frustration? Was there joy? What was there? What was it that drove you?
So actually, confession time. There's two nice elements. One nice element is that I actually started training with my dad. And my dad at the time was in his late 50s. So I'd drive for 25 miles to go up to Plymouth to train with my dad. And then he would join me in competition. The 3 of us, my mum as well, would go and drive, and like he'd take part. It was really nice. And he'd also celebrate kind of my success, as my mum would. The other bit why I'm kind of cringing is that it was the best revenge mission I could possibly do. I'd come out of an emotionally abusive relationship with somebody and he'd be there kind of showing off, kind of in his flash car, talking about his flash holiday and going, "Oh, I'm really sorry, I don't mean to rub your face in it." And I'm sat there thinking, oh, actually, I'm kind of like traveling around the world like as a champion. I don't need you, I need me. Thank goodness I'm not in this relationship anymore. So I wouldn't say that, you know, I competed to spite him, but there was something really empowering about these are on my terms now, not your terms.
Yeah, so there was a passion there.
Yeah,
there was there was a driving force. Excellent. That's awesome.
God, right, now we need to switch the camera because vomiting and then revenge sprints.
Just saying how it is, you know, we want a bit of honesty and genuine, you know, it's you being you. And
real, and we love that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Can I comment on that real quick?
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
What I heard at the end there, what comes up strongly that I'm sensing about here is when you said you were in an emotionally abusive here and he was rubbing it in your face and everything like that, you did not let that deter you from what you actually or who you are really being. And that was the person that you didn't bow down. You did not say, okay, I believe you and I can't do this here. You did it. You took those words that he said to you and just basically put up the wall and said, I'm not going to hear you no more. So you were being your true being and you didn't have nothing to prove to anybody else. And what I hear is that you did it for your own true being and your own proving to yourself. So thanks for sharing that here.
Yeah, lovely. Nicely said, Pete. Yeah. Anybody else got anything to add to that?
Well, yeah, I think kind of just to sum up that piece, which is don't try to control it, don't try to force it, just see where it goes and
be curious.
Yeah, because it will show up. And I can't help but look at Laurie's giraffe and I'm like, you know, the creativity that's in there, that's deep inside you is just, you know, just waiting to be unleashed. And
Laurie is an absolute genius at that. I'll come to you in a minute, Sherilyn. While we're talking about Laurie is an incredible artist, and she uses creativity and play to help people really express themselves, to build confidence, and to make incredible transitional shifts in a sort of a backdoor kind of a way, in a much more, you know, in an easy, playful way. And she's incredibly talented and also a writer, a poet. So I'm so excited to be doing our episode in the new year at some point. But that's going to be really, really juicy. So, Laurie, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would. What you said is perfect. It explains me well. But as Claire was telling her story, what was coming up for me is that we have this impression of who we are, who we're supposed to be, who we should be. And it is when we can let go and play. A lot of my art is based in very what people might call childlike. Like there's no experience necessary. You don't have to be an artist. You don't even have to be interested in art, but it's like coming to that blank page and being playful. I love it for its like empty playground on this blank page that we can just play, and whatever you're doing in anything is what's going on in everything. And so it's like this little canvas that you can play with. And what I heard in that, my book is, I wrote a book called Artfelt Inspiration, Let Your Freak Fly. And that freak in us is something that is probably comes so naturally, but it doesn't seem to fit in with what you feel like you're supposed to be putting out there. And it is your gift. It is your superpower. And so when you can grasp hold of that and really love yourself for who that was. I was never an artist. I was an occupational therapist. I was based in science. I knew and when I could let go and be this silly, playful, I realized this is really what people need, is to let go of that in their life and just allow that silly childlike wonder of who you are come through. And I do think that comes out in our art play or your passion play in your life. But yeah, art play.
Wonderful. Thank you. Sherilyn, you wanted to add to something there?
I did. I was thinking about, and it was perfect that Lori went first because I saw some things in what she was saying as well. I was just going back to the topic of New Year's resolutions and how all that pressure to, like, it's the beginning of the year, which is arbitrary, really, that we have this date. Okay, now it's a start date. And that pressure. And what I've learned over the years for myself and clients and friends is, like, instead of making New Year's resolutions, I mean, you can do it if you, like you said, if you have that higher purpose behind it, if you really have like a big why you're doing it, then they can work. But instead, for me, instead of doing a New Year's resolution, it is a bigger umbrella that I'm looking at. I'm looking at, like, how do I want this, how do I want my life to feel from this moment forward? And then the next moment forward, and then the next moment forward. And so that requires a kind of different kind of questions, asking yourself, excuse me, where you're asking, well, what is, again, like, how would I want my life to feel around my business? So that I can bring my passion to whatever it is that I'm doing. How can I add more play? And those questions end up being like, they form a vision of how life can look. And that is the thing that I can keep going back to when I get off track, rather than a resolution that says I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to do that. If it's a feeling, it's a whole different experience. And one of my favorite, I got this from my husband. His motto when I met him was never leave the playground. And that one has just, I mean, we had little cards when we got married a year ago. They were with balloons and it said never leave the playground on it. And that feeling, like, if I get off track, it doesn't matter what time of year it is. If I remember that brings me back. That brings me back.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter how hard life has gotten, because it's gotten quite challenging for so many. If you can bring play to it, even for just a few minutes, it shifts the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sherilyn.
I love how empowering that sense is. It's March the 3rd. Who do I want to be today? How do I want to feel today? It's August the 15th. You can choose. You can just go, yeah, this is all I've got is today. Let's start from here and then build out. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Every day is an opportunity to not to start again, but it's a fresh beginning, isn't it? From your sleep, you've kind of had a bit of a reset while you're sleeping. So each morning, each day, when you get up, is an opportunity to set those intentions, or to ask yourself those questions. How do I want to be today? How do I want to be in the present moment? And I think going back, with the reflection as we close in 2022 and this quiet period of time, whether it's in between the holidays and New Year, whether it's through January, wherever it is, it's very beneficial to give yourself that space and quiet time to really reflect on, what worked for me in 2022, what made me feel good, what inspired me, what uplifted me, what didn't work for me, and how do I want to take, how do I want to be through this next year? How do I want to see next year unfolding? And again, holding that loosely without being really attached to those outcomes. So for me, 2022, some of the things that didn't work was the opposite of, that didn't inspire me, that left me feeling overwhelmed and drained, was the pressure, the hard work, the looking at so many different programs and courses and following other people. Oh, I've got to do this to be successful. If I want to launch a program, it has to be this, this, and this, and this, and just pushing rather than creating that space, which I know, and everybody here, we know how important creating space is. But even with that, you forget. Sometimes you get caught up in it, and you forget to take this step back that you need to take. So I think it's nice to really reflect on what didn't work, and what do you want from 2023? How do you want to be within yourself, and how you want to feel?
Yeah.
Anybody?
Well, I'd love to bring in Ken. I'll come back because I'd really love to hear your response to that question. In terms of what has the year past brought you in terms of growth? Let's just say growth. Forget.
Well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on this discussion panel here today. And I'm meeting some fabulous people, and that's what it's all about. It's about connecting. Going back into 2022, as Jennifer just mentioned about the expectations and the pressures that we put on ourselves here, I've done that in the beginning of the year. I have this business. I'm a professional life coach here. How do I get clients? What do I need to do here? And just really have those expectations bog me down instead of creating what I need to do every single day to be me. Key, what I'm hearing with all of you here is that I cannot create anything outside of me until I learn and know and create what is inside of me. Find that. Create who I want to be. Create it through the language. Create when I wake up every single day. What do I want this day to be? Who do I want to be? I heard Laurie and I heard Cheryl talk about childhood. And I'll take us all back. Remember when we were 6 or 7 years old? We didn't care. We didn't care about what anybody said, what we did. If we fall, we get back up here. We said things that we did. We were playful. And then when we got into the world of school and church and parents and all that here, we conformed to what society was telling us that we had to do. I got away from the expectations in 2022. And I create it for me every single day. January 1st happens every single day for me. Because I choose to wake up every single day and say, whose life can I change? Who can I help? Who can I love? And when I was asking those questions here, I turned it right back onto me. How do I make myself better? How can I love? How can I be more passionate? So when I go into 2023, and I guess this is a segue into the 3 words that I want to bring to this panel here. And those 3 words are commitment, courage, and consistency. Without commitment, you'll never start. Without having the courage to start those commitment, you'll never start. And without consistency, you will never finish. So that's what I brought into 2022. This is what I created for myself in 2022. I am playful every day. Every day I'm waking up every single day here. Happy freaking New Year. Who do I need to be today? And once I create me, then I know I can create that other person in my practice. And not even with my practice. I asked my wife the other day, I said, I went through this training in 2022 to become a professional life coach here. And I asked her, I said, have you seen a change in me since I've been doing that? And her words were, absolutely, I do. Those words is going to continue myself into 2023 and beyond. I am committed to start. I'm going to have the courage to whatever I want to start to be committed. And I'm going to have the consistency to move forward in order to keep that January 1st alive every single day. So if you don't mind me sharing real quick, and I know I don't want to go on too much. We're going to give someone else an opportunity here. Is January 1st is just an excuse for people. It really, really is. It's just an excuse. So they go out there and they said, okay, I want to lose weight. I want to quit smoking. I want to quit drinking. I want to be nicer. I want to do all those things. I make that New Year's resolution, and come February, it's all out the door. And then they use the continuation of, oh, January 1st is coming up. I want to go ahead and lose weight. I want to quit smoking. I want to quit all those things. January 1st is just a day on our earth. January 1st is just like January 2nd, January 3rd. If you want to change, create that change within you. You need to choose that creation within inside of you. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all about that. And I could go on. I'm very, very excited here. I'm energetic, and that's who I am. So
excellent.
I really want to dive into the question to John and to Candy, especially building on Ken's contribution around being still enough and then moving forward. What stops leaders, what stops executives from doing that? So often get caught in the busyness that you don't stop to take care of yourself, let alone the team around you. You're kind of kidding yourself. And I just wondered, if that's a trait that you often see, or kind of words of encouragement to others that, go, well, it's okay for you guys. You're all enlightened and you're all coaches, but on real earth, with all these pressures. Yeah. So John, Candy?
I'll be a bit blunt here, Claire. I think the only people that get in the way of change are themselves, and the leadership are no exception to that. There's a lot of noise around, being an executive, and there's no doubt it can be a stressful and pressured job. But I think, we all know this. If you're going to be a leader, you lead by example, and often the behaviors of leaders are not what they'd expect from their team. So it's a really interesting one. I mean, what I tend to do with my clients on a real practical level is ask them, how ready are you to change, and what behavior do you want to change? Because we can change in many ways. We can reduce or stop something, we can improve something, we can increase something. And I think it's worth spending time, and hopefully your podcast listeners will think about this. It's really important to list the things that you'd like to change for a start, and then you can do two really simple things around it. This is, really practical things. You can say, how important is it for me to change that behavior, and how confident am I to do it? And if you use those two as a metric, scale them 1 to 10, it's very unlikely that you will change if it's not important to you, or you're not confident in it. So I like, maybe it's a little bit, perhaps facts and figures, but I really think it's a great way to demonstrate to people how likely they are to succeed, but also to ask yourself, how ready are you to change? I mean, you can be in so many different states. You can be not ready at all. You can be contemplating it. You can be on the fence. You might be getting ready. You might actually do it, but then there's maintaining it. So I think realizing those steps can be really useful for people.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And another good question, if I may, to add on to that is, how does my change, how does that impact my loved ones? And if I continue staying the way I am now, how does that impact my loved ones? And I think that's another sort of layer of that drive needed to make change. But yeah, absolutely. Some people aren't ready for change at all.
Anything extra you wanted to add?
Yeah, I would. I love what you just said, John. And first off, that space around needing to want to change. It's interesting, as all of us talk about coaching and some different things. You can see potential in people all day long, and if they don't want to change. But the other thing that I see get in the way, especially for leaders, is we live in this world of martyrdom. We live in a world where we complain and commiserate. We don't connect and communicate. And what I mean by that is we live by this ultimate 4-letter word, which is the word busy, and it has become a badge of honor honor, which is an epidemic in and of itself, where I may say to Lori as leader to leader and say, hey, Lori, how are things going? And she's like, Candy, let me tell you, holy crap, we have 14 projects we're trying to do. We're trying to acquire this new client. I got my kids' tournaments this weekend, blah, 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 blah. And me being the leader that I am, I show up and I say, oh, Lori, please, you think your world sucks. Let me tell you how much mine does. And we have this metric of who can outsuck who is the badge of honor. Who gets to wear the cap of leadership. And it was interesting because I listened to a podcast with Brene Brown, Adam Grant, and Simon Sinek. It was a 2-part podcast. It was beautiful on Dare to Lead. And Adam Grant said something that has forever hit me in my core. He said, we talk a lot about high performance, and I think about leadership in the same vein, that high performance does not happen unless you are elevating others. And the only way, and when I talk about leadership, the only way you can elevate others is by leading yourself first. You cannot lead from an empty cup. And so this idea that we're going to just keep giving and I'm going to be the sacrificial lamb. And I ask clients all the time, I said, do you have a sacred cow? And sometimes it's themselves and their own mindset is the sacred cow, what they're not willing to give up, because it's a space of, if you think that by tapping out constantly and that you're working 80 to 100 hours a week and, oh, you're so busy and you're leading, you're not. You can't possibly lead if you have not taken a step back to say, I must make myself a priority. And so one of the things I work with leaders, we do this thing of kind of like your what, why, and who, but then we get into talking about living legacy. And everything that I've heard all of you talk about on this, so many of us think legacy is this thing that happens when we leave the earth. Legacy happens in every breath we take. Legacy happens in every way we choose to show up, we choose to serve, and we choose to take responsibility inside that space. When we intentionally show up, we are creating a living legacy that's in alignment with what really is going on inside of us. If we don't show up intentionally, our living legacy will do us one way or the other. And we don't realize that we're creating these ripples because we're not, and I think Dan had said it, being present. We're not present in our lives. We're not present with the whisper that calls. We all, because the other thing that really gets me is when people are like, I got to find my purpose. No, you don't. You are your purpose. There is no finding a purpose. You, in your entirety of who you are, is the purpose. The problem is you're so busy outside of you haven't gotten in that space. And I talk a lot about being aligned AF. I'll say that instead of the real way I say it. Aligned AF, to drop in and hear the whisper, but they're too busy listening. And so Jenny, I love your comment about how does this impact your loved ones? And sometimes we have to be careful of that too, because sometimes we're too concerned with how we're going to impact others, what they're going to perceive, that we're still outside of ourselves, that we're not coming into and dropping into that alignment to hear the purpose that's in us already, that's trying to get our attention and call to us, because we live in this culture of busy. And that, in my opinion, is what gets every leader I work with stuck. It's this 4-letter word of busy, which I call buried under the shoulding all over yourself. And it's what we are doing by this perception of how we think we're supposed to show up in our lives. And we're not leading ourselves first. So
awesome.
And none of us should on ourselves, do we?
No.
None of us do that.
No, and I tell people all the time, if you think I said one thing versus shoulding, it's the same thing, because you're burying yourself under layers of crap. So if you think it was shoulding or shoulding, it's the same thing. Whatever your brain heard is right. It's what it is.
Awesome.
Sometimes this kind of element around alignment for some people is really, really hard, and it feels esoteric, feels abstract. But Jennifer, when we talked about in the early episodes, we talked about alignment and overwhelm. What is it you want to do? Kind of you came up with a great tip of listen to where you're frustrated, because when you're frustrated, your body is telling you need to change. Something's not right. You need to pay attention. That's the little noise that's going on. And that frustration can be hugely healthy, because it's the little sign that says, you need to shift, you need to move, you need to get something shifting.
And just while we're talking about feelings as well, I think it's important to know, around, we all want to wake up feeling inspired and energized and great, new day, new start. But realistically, that's not how we all wake up every day. Even people that are at their highest vibration have days and moments where they don't feel at their happiest, most fulfilled, most joyful, and living with most ease and flow. So I think it's important to recognize when your body is feeling something, yes, to question it and see, okay, what's my body showing me? What's my emotions and my feelings showing me? But there are times where there's feelings and emotions that really need to come up, and you need to allow yourself to feel those emotions, and as much as possible, take away the judgment of, why am I feeling like this? I shouldn't be feeling like this. I should, I know better. I don't like feeling like this. But just to really allow those feelings to pass, and because there is that ebb and flow, and just allow yourself the time and the space to go through that. And there's been so much energy, and the energy of the planet at the moment, with all the uncertainty that's going on. It's important to allow yourself the space to move through that, and for it to come up and leave, and not be sitting in and squashed down in the body. So I just wanted to add that.
Yeah. I also, as you were talking, I was thinking about, you're just talking about leaders and executives. The same for leaders and executives. Like when you're in a position of leadership and you've got a team, there's pressure to make the team happy, and then you've got pressure from possibly above. You've got to get the bottom line here. And I think that the busyness, you end up thinking that staying busy is going to get you somewhere, and actually taking the time to do what you just said and tune in. And it doesn't have to take as long as you think. I think we think that if I let myself feel, it's going to go on and on and on. And that's just rarely true, unless you've got some deep trauma that, you need some professional help. I think that, a good cry or a good scream out in the woods, and then you have so much more energy to do your tasks, to show up for your team. And it really, it's part of self-care I think for everyone. But I just particularly was thinking about executives that I've worked with. It's like, you've got to have a break to break the energy, and then come back, and you'll be so much more productive.
We actually schedule with my clients, one of their tasks when they work with me, especially leader. Well, everybody I work with is leader, whether they're an actual titled leader or not, but it's that cathartic cleanse. It's space for actual, and I've actually had to teach people how to cathartic cleanse, whether it's giving themselves permission to cry, to paint, to color, something that is a cathartic release, because that build up, to your point, Sherilyn, it takes people out. It creates an implosion in their body. And we have not been taught effectively how to regulate our emotions or how to express them fully. And so that cathartic release is so critical.
And that actually brings to mind, as we started out this podcast and talking about the gift that we can give, one of the things that I had thought of is that I have a list of 33 creative breaks that take 10 to 15 minutes. Because it really is, when we're talking about this, it really is about expression. And I think so many of us get stuck in the why, and we may not know that for a long time. And so it really is an opportunity to take a break and to express in some way. So that's my free gift, everybody.
Awesome.
In which you can use to take a little breather, a little creative breather that not only opens yourself up for more creativity, but also opens you to what Candy was talking about, in hearing that whisper, as well as just to get it out, just to to do that little vomit in a different
I love what Laurie has said, and Sherilyn and Candy, and I kind of think, there's this accolade that people have for being busy and working so hard. There's a great question you can ask yourself, or you can ask your clients, and that is, would you really put yourself up as a role model for your children with how you are in your life now? Because I've actually seen execs stop in their tracks when you ask that question, and they're like, no, I wouldn't want to be a role model as I am now for my children or for my family. And it's a very powerful question. And just building on the break that Cheryl Lynn was talking about, and Laurie, it's been shown that just 1 or 2 minutes out of a difficult situation or a challenging day can be so beneficial. And people think it's a 2-week holiday. I mean, that's great if you can afford to do that, but just 2 minutes for a bit of contemplation, whatever you want to do in that 2 minutes is fine. But taking that, perhaps when you've listened to your body and you hear or see a warning sign that things aren't quite right, take the 2 minutes.
And I've got to say, and we haven't gone into depth on this, but I hit a major burnout in 2020, and I had a week off, wonderful break, but came back, nothing had changed. And it kind of, when you remove yourself and you've got the calm, but you haven't really adjusted how your normal everyday is working, you're just repeating the pattern over and over and over again. Whereas if you're able to just intersperse your day with small breaks to recenter throughout the day, it makes you so much more resilient, for sure. Yeah. And played. and also kind of by doing that openly, by bringing in creativity, you're creating the space for others around you to do that. And how does that spread? What could we achieve if we did that? And it again, kind of creativity and leadership are the two of the 3 or 4 most absent skills that we need for the planet moving forward. It's so darn important. Everything else can be done by AI or by computer over time, but creativity, true creativity, playfulness, collaboration, leadership, they are
connection.
Yeah. I think it was Michael Neal that said, he asks all the executives when he goes in to do coaching, what do you think are the 5 most important things? And whatever they come up with, he said, no, having fun and play is the number 1.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was just thinking, if we move in a little bit towards our, we want to share some ideas and suggestions about 3 words, which play with 3 words of how you want to be in at some point through 2023, or even start now. That you don't, like you said, think, was it Dan or Pete said, you don't have to wait till, or maybe Keith. One of you said that. Why wait until January the 1st? You can start this moment of changing. So Dan, I'd just like to ask you, what do you want to do differently, or what are your 3 words that your powerful 3 words of how you want to be?
2023, interesting. Well, Claire's been a witness to my challenges and growth and push and pull and all these bits and pieces. So for me, it's interesting. So I reflected a bit about what I want 2023 and how that would affect maybe other people. So the first word that came to me, which was a bit of a pebble drop from Claire when we last chatted, was joy. But I've changed it a little bit and say enjoy. So what that really means is engaged enjoyment. Instead of just going, oh, isn't that great? Actually be present a bit more. And actually just go, I don't have to do anything. I can just enjoy it instead of actually trying to influence it. So that's one. The second one is allowing. So that basically means trusting in the now and what unfolds. Because sometimes you just get in the way of things, thinking that you have to control, contribute, or in some way. And actually, a lot of it is just turning up and just listening to what you feel is right, and the rest will just happen. And the final one is a bit of a weird one. The word is called pardon. So basically, it's to pardon and give forgiveness to others, and mostly yourself. I think a lot of people just walk through life and look at others and judge and go, what's wrong with them and what's wrong with that. Well, and actually, a lot of it is just be kind. That's the start. You live from that space. A lot of life's problems will sort themselves out. A lot of times people try and force things or expect too much of how they think they have to be. And if you just be kind and just say, okay, sorry, you're just being who you think you have to be at the time, life will just go as it needs to. And 2023 needs people just to be present and just be patient with others. If you've got more people doing that, I think all the problems in life will slowly calm down and people can actually make positive choices based on who they are, not who they're trying to be.
Is that also around forgiveness, the pardon as well, Dan?
Yeah, it's mostly coming from me. That's my inner voice, something that I just don't give myself permission to do. Expectation of trying to be who you think you have to be and how that has to go off what you've done before. Actually, detachment. What's happened has happened. Tomorrow is going to happen, but today is all that matters. So live now, take a step. Don't worry about the steps, just take a step. And it'll be
Thank you.
Can
Anybody? Yeah, go on, Claire.
I want to pick Cheryl Lynn.
Yes.
What would your 3 words be?
Well, the first one is mission, and but maybe not in the way that I normally would think of it. I mean, it really is about higher purpose, because when I stay focused on like why I'm here on the planet, then everything else I can measure against that. I can make decisions based on, what is my mission? Why am I here? And when I know that, and it's not about, someone had said something about purpose. You are a living purpose. It's not about, what's my purpose? It's about really embodying my mission on the planet. So that's the first one. And then the second one is compassion. And the word came to me when I was thinking about myself, because I think I'm not particularly compassionate with myself when it comes to, like, I'm doing the best I can, and some days I don't quite get it right. And I've learned to laugh a lot more at myself when I kind of flub up something. But having compassion, I think, for self and others is such an important piece right now. And I think it's a bridge, a communication bridge also, that when you have compassion for someone who doesn't agree with you or who's trying to convince you of their side of things, and understand that they're just doing the best that they can with the information they have at the time, just like I am. That's that I have to always remind myself. And there's a lot of very angry people out there right now. You have to see it my way. And it's like, I can see through your eyes. I see it differently through my eyes, but I see it through your eyes, and I have compassion. And then the last one is play. I talked about earlier that my husband's motto is never leave the playground. And I've really adopted that. And because I can be really serious and silly is way more fun. And we're about to welcome our 9-month-old granddaughter into our lives. We're going to be raising her, and in a week she's coming. And talk about having someone to activate that fun in our lives. Like, oh my God. I can already tell she's a silly one, just like I was when I was little. So
beautiful. That's so. It's just must be so exciting and heartwarming, and just having that beautiful young soul come into your home and play with you, and you play with them, and it's very, very special.
Yes.
And Cheryl Lynn, actually, just while we're on Cheryl Lynn, part of what you do or will be doing is helping grandparents through adoption. I'll let you talk about that in a minute, but let me just introduce Cheryl Lynn properly. Cheryl Lynn is the ultimate cosmic conduit, which, you know, she's an incredible channeler, medical intuitive healer, spiritual guide and facilitator, and she helps assist her clients through relationship issues, health, parenting, especially brown parenting, and parenting with children that have mental health issues and addiction. And Cheryl Lynn has an amazing book which talks about those things. What's the name of your book, Cheryl Lynn?
It's called Wise Beyond Your Fears.
So yes, Cheryl Lynn is going to be focusing more on helping parents in that arena as well. Anything else you want to add to that, Cheryl Lynn?
No, it'll be grandparents, but also other relatives that that need to step in, mostly because of the opioid addiction problems in the world. And someone needs to raise these kids, and it's not an easy task. So definitely part of my mission, my bigger mission and purpose on the planet.
That's a big mission.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Anybody else like to share their 3 words? Who?
I was going to choose child. I'm very lucky in that I've got a 33-year-old son and also a nearly 4-year-old daughter, just as I planned it. And I love looking at Megan and seeing how she's in the moment. I think it's absolutely amazing that, you know, just as Ken said, she doesn't care what other people are seeing or thinking of her. And I would like to be more like that. The second word is teacher. I've used this a little bit this year and it's been very useful, but I want to use it more into next year. And that is, if I have challenging situations or people, I'd like to see them as my teacher. They're there to teach me something, whether it's patience, whether it's more understanding, more compassion. So I am consciously going to take a few moments when I'm in a difficult situation, and it's a combination actually of thinking of that person as a child. I think that can really help you, you know, see past the difficulty, but also that they're there to teach me something. And the general word is play as well, which doesn't need any more explanation. I think it's a really great thing that we've discussed today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to invite Laurie in. I can see the step forward is like, let me share.
Yeah, my 3 words for next year. Interesting. The first one is fuck it.
Yeah, right.
I loved Candy's reaction to that.
Yeah, we actually just finished reading that book, which I wasn't that excited about, but there's a lot of whenever I am feeling uptight about anything, there's something that I do need to let go of, to surrender, that I need to say fuck it to. And so I will go beyond what Carrie said, or Candy said, and use that AF word.
Amen.
But yeah, so fuck it's the first one. The second one is accepting. My 2023, there's going to be a lot of changes that are not forced upon me. I don't like that, but things that I'm choosing that are exciting, but also might be a bit of a change and upheaval, and change is not always easy. I like change because I get bored easily, but yes, just stay out of the judgment of it and be accepting. And the last one is meaningful, and I could easily say creativity, play, any of those, but meaning, those seem to come very easily for me. And I want to just bring up that sometimes the things that are selfful, that we, the self-care can often tend to look like rainbows and, the bubble baths and the quote unquote easy stuff. And sometimes it's the more challenging things that actually are very meaningful. And so I'm leaning more into meaningful, the real juicy, meaningful experiences coming up.
Oh,
Nice.
I'd
Lovely.
really like to trademark the term a fuck it list instead of a bucket list, and I would love it all. That's definitely a march. Joined. Cool. What do you want to add? Oh, I love them.
There's definitely a lot that people can add to their bucket list.
I got to explain. I've got a very warm looking Peppy on my lap, and he's just like, as soon as you say that word, he kind of goes, whoop, whoop, whoop. I don't know.
All do. We all have that little whoop.
Okay. Candy, what's your 3?
Well, actually, I'm carrying a 3-word phrase from 2022 that I wasn't really sure what it meant until I ended up being forced on a 2-month sabbatical that shifted everything. That's another story. But the phrase that I came into this year with, it's carrying me into 2023 because I'm very clear as to why, also walks me into kind of my 3 words, and it's I'm not available. And what really showed up from 2022, and actually I've shifted my entire platform. So I love that Lori just put it out there, because I have a whole new space around being aligned as fuck. And for me, I am no longer available in any way, shape, or form to play small. That pulls me out of being aligned as fuck, pulls me out of being authentic, or pulls me out of the ascension of where I'm going, which means letting go of everybody else's version of who they think I should be, letting go of people that choose to get offended because I show up in my truth. And so it's been a very powerful phrase for me that is really, I am no longer available. I am not available. I am not available. I am not available. And so it has elevated my boundaries. It has elevated everything. And as I've gone through some major loss and transition, even at the end of this year, getting very clear how that phrase is carrying me into that whole space of being aligned as fuck, authentic, and allowing myself the continued ascension for what keeps downloading through and what is calling through my purpose, which is here to disrupt. And I am finally making peace with that. And so feeling a very powerful shift coming into currently and moving into the next year for sure. In fact, my voice just caught. That doesn't
I am covered in goosebumps, but just the power, you are on it, on fire, and kind of yeah, sorry, I'm very excited about that, and I definitely want to keep bringing you back into the room to find out how that's going. Really.
And Candy's got a gift for all our listeners, which is a book with 13 strategies around destroying the noise. And she talks about what the noise is and how to quieten that down and create that space that we've been talking about. So we'll have all those details and the details from Laurie as well within the text of the podcast. Who else?
You.
Just me and you. So my 3 words for 2023, after reflecting on 2022, simplicity. And Ken, yes. No, Ken went first.
Yep, I already said them.
He went first, didn't he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, though. Thanks, Candy. No, that's helpful. Yes, so simplicity. Keeping things simple. We're so good at complicating things, making something, and there's always simple solutions, simple answers, and just scaling right back and making things simple and easy. Because life does not have to be hard or complicated. The other is inspiration. So we talked a lot about heart and coming from a place of love, coming from that place of passion. So really continually connecting to my inspiration. And if it doesn't inspire me, I'm not going to do it. If it doesn't lift me, I am not going to do it. Hell no.
No.
And the last one, although I do have 4, is connection. But connection, Claire's laughing. I have 4, but connection, again, I think it was, I can't remember who it was, but it's about going deep. It was you, Laurie, wasn't it, when you were talking about your words, but going really deep into, making connections, deep connections, but also connecting on a deeper level with myself, with my higher self, with my guides, with my inner knowing, my inner wisdom, and connection for this year, more so this year. And the other one is space, because we've been talking a lot about space, and that was already on my list. So yes, that's my words. Claire, your turn.
There we go. So for me, expression. I adore this space. I adore the conversation. I've really loved launching the podcast this year. I'm finding deep expression through art at the moment, and it's just so empowering, kind of both my own voice, but giving space for other people to have that voice, to get that out there. So I want to keep supporting that. It's a really dull word. I need to think of a different word, because commitment is my next word. And that's because I'm restless at times, and that means that I dart about. I am multi-passionate. I pull on so many things, but at times it has its negative side. So I don't finish stuff off. I don't follow through quickly enough, and that's not an intention. So I need to slow down, probably, finish stuff off, tidy up a little bit. So I'm putting that as commitment. And then the third is unashamed. And I've been quite open here, but over this last year with different personal events, and I look at other times in my life, there's been stuff that's happened to me that's had a greater hold than it needs to, because I've been embarrassed and ashamed about what people would think, or and you know what, the people here on this planet love me, and they love me no matter what. And actually, when you start sharing, it dissipates the power that other people have over you. But that shame aspect comes through too strongly and has too strong a hold, and has held me down in 2022, but not next year.
We'll definitely do a podcast around commitment and not following through. I think that's a really good subject, and shame, because a lot of people feel shame, and I think lighting that, shining the light on that, it's like it sort of goes hand in hand with vulnerability. So definitely episodes around those subjects. I just want to add, I believe Ken and John, you're both offering a free coaching session. So those
gifted. Yep.
Gifted. Sorry, gifted.
Yes.
Yes, gifting a free gifting a coaching session. So those details will be within the text as well.
Yep.
Does anybody want to add anything else?
It was just great to meet you all, and thank you, Claire and Jennifer, for inviting us. And it was lovely to meet all of you, brilliant coaches, and hear different perspectives. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would really love the opportunity to connect with everybody here. So if you're all on Facebook Messenger, I will look you up, and I will send a friend request to all of you here to learn a lot more about you. And that's what it's all about, is connecting here. And this is how we get the chance to do that here. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Happy
Sorry.
New Year.
Oh,
yes. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. Yes.
So,
and thank you. Sorry, Claire. I just want to thank all of you for taking the time out in and being here and connecting with each other. I've really enjoyed the energy, and look forward to doing more episodes with you all, and Happy New Year.
And
Happy New
before I
Year.
stop recording and starting the after party, I want to thank the listeners, because it's not just been about us in the room. We wanted to provide this space in Twixmas, and we have covered so much around just give yourself a break. Just give yourself a break. You can start again tomorrow. You can start again today. It's okay. Just allow the calm, to hear that inner voice come through, that whisper. You have to be present in that, and wherever you go, you'll thrive. Just let yourself thrive. Don't get in your way. Don't get too busy for life to happen and truly happen, because it's a magical, playful, creative, fun, enchanting, inspiring place to be. So I am going to stop recording, guys. If you like what you've listened to, please like, subscribe and share, and we'll be back in the new year with Dan as our first guest, who's really going to help you to understand what being you is all about. So for now, ciao.
Thank you for listening. We'd love to hear your comments and feedback. And if you've enjoyed it, please click on that subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, and feel free to share. Join us for our next episode of the Exponential Potential Podcast. Ignite your potential and thrive in times of great change.